Going on, guys? With the messenger thought on knowledge. Welcome to a very quick but probably dark video that I thought I would do because none of us are getting actual decent information in which not only is it dishonest, but a lot of it has been propaganda. As of today, we are fast tracking Ukraine to become a NATO member of the United Nations. In those terms, that means if the president calls upon our military in the U.S. to go stand with Ukraine on the battlefield, we got to do that. But I don't think none of us, I don't want to say none of us, some of us do, but a lot of us don't understand the kind of warfare that might come from this, or most certainly come from this, because we need to look at AI and technology, for example. Obviously, Putin has that AI in the nuclear programs that he has, and I know that we do too. But Washington is not treating this like a possible war atrocity. They're not treating this as like, okay, we're making Ukraine a NATO member to protect them from a dictator. Washington has totally different intentions and initiatives that they want to take with this. What they're trying to do, in my personal opinion, and this is going to be argued, is this is about a country that has lost power, all right? And if we take the pipelines and the legitimacy of those pipelines, put them under United States territory and ownership completely, that means we have more power over the energy coming in from Central Europe. That's crazy, right? That's obviously what they're after. This is about power, and that's what's fucked up about it. Then what does Zelensky have to do with it? America sees Zelensky as a gateway, and this has been said many times across YouTube, and I agree with it. Because we've sent, without any vote, by the way, of the United States, they never sent out a vote, an email or social media or in the mail about how we feel about supporting this war. They just said we support it. That's it. And send billions of tax dollars over to Ukraine because they want the pipelines. They want more power. This has nothing to do with people. That's what's making this dangerous. And then, and only then, find out today, and you might find out tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the morning in the U.S., three Republican politicians are backing Putin. American government politicians are backing Russia. That's a fucking problem. So that tells me right there too that there's some possible insider trading and some possible political and military mutiny amongst us as well, which is only going to drive Russia to do what? So let me explain what might happen with all of this here. First of all, I want people to understand that this is not a normal war. This is not going to be fought under normal circumstances. This is not going to be, all right, Zelensky's going to put more men on the ground. We're going to put more boots on the ground. No, this is going to be tactical warfare. Because Putin has made this threat 3 times, and unfortunately, because, the think tank in Washington knows everything, we obviously should realize that he has nuclear weapons off the grid. He does not follow UN. He does not follow anyone's rules. That makes him even more dangerous. And what I don't understand also, not only our so-called commander-in-chief, our professional president, commander-in-chief, going on television to talk like a fucking 90-year-old tough guy. Whoever is running that show needs to yoke him up and put him back in the Oval Office where he can't be near any cameras, because he's not handling this at all in any way, shape, or form like an emergency situation, which it should be handled. Because I'm telling us right now that the more of a catalyst that America is becoming, because of no fault of our own, we have no control over the weapons as we the people. We don't have control over anything. What are they going to do? They're going to go to war whether we like it or not. And the war that they're possibly thinking that might be fought is not going to be fought. It is way too deep. There are way too many casualties for today's standards. There's way too much damage that has been done, and way too many lies that have been told on behalf of all governments. The one thing I do want to include in this is that we need to stop listening to the news media. Take Putin's threats very seriously. Make sure your phones are always charged up. Make sure you're getting the news notifications every day, because this is deeper than what they're telling you, and it's extremely dangerous. They're also mistaken on the amount of warheads Putin actually has. I have researched this. He has over 450,000 warheads. and over 200,000 biological weapons. So I want Washington to also understand what they're up against. A man that's not going to be fighting fair, number two, because he also bombed a hospital today, killed 30 children and 27 pregnant women. So that has to be added insult to injury. And if this was such a so-called bad guy, why didn't you? My question would be to the United States government: why didn't you make them a NATO member during the 2 days of the beginning of the argument of the annexed lands? Now, in 2014, they didn't see it at that time. They didn't see the pipeline at that time. Why I'm emphasizing on the pipeline is because the more elements and control of the elements that the United States government has, there's four major elements that our world functions on, and all of us should know this: water, energy, medicine, food. And if you control more of those elements, you have more power over people and more power over the globe. This is a war that just might, and I hate to sound like a conspiracist, but I do agree with a lot of people that have spoke on YouTube. Unfortunately, Jordan Peterson has jumped into this and got nothing but flack. A couple other people that used to work for the United States government on anonymous official have jumped in and weighed in on the situation too economically, which is good. This might be the war that end all wars because they're not going to fight it traditionally. And I'm doing this not only for my wife and my kids, but I'm doing this for every veteran in the United States that is an active duty officer, commander, or soldier. You might want to stand by we the people on this, because from my research and also history itself, Russia shouldn't be fucked with unless you know what you're fucking with. Some of you may disagree and look at me like I'm completely crazy. You think Putin's soft. You think the country's small. You think the country is weak because of the economics and all this other stuff. That's all bullshit. When it comes to the captain of the ship, he's going to go down with it. He doesn't care about casualties. He doesn't care about how many men and women in uniform that we have, because it's not about boots on the ground. I want to emphasize that. This is about total full-on warfare. They're not going to play fair. That's why we should be extremely pissed at Washington, number one. Number two, we should tread carefully with how we're looking at this war. Please don't take sides. You want to look at all sides first. Who was the major catalyst between the two in the beginning? The United States. Who jumped the gun today too and kicked the Russians out of the UN? The United States. Why? So they can continue to fuel the fire. On top of that, I wouldn't have done that if I'm trying to get intel on my enemy. I would have never kicked Russia out of the UN. I would have kept them in, enemies closer, to protect we the people. That's just my opinion. That's what I would do. So I want to end the video here. Wish everybody a good week ahead. Please stay informed. Keep your phones on again. Keep them charged up. And most certainly make sure your relationships with your family are good. Because this is an extremely dangerous time. And I don't want anyone to think less. I don't want anyone to listen to the mainstream bullshit coming out of news stations across the United States. This is an extremely catastrophic situation. And it's that close to tipping. Because we don't have a system in place, again, that is stable. Not only in the United States, but around the world. Again, it's not that I don't want Ukraine to get the protection that they need. That's not the point. They should not be making a country a NATO member during the rise of a nuclear situation.